Good evening. You're on Visual Radio. Hello?
Oh,
Hey, John.
no, it's John Phil calling.
How are you?
What?
Can you hear me okay?
Second here.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Hey, guys in the production room, I'm getting a little echo in here.
Yeah, there's a bit of a time delay, isn't there?
Yeah, it might be the telephone. Oh, it sounds good on the air, John. So, hello. Hey, man. Thank you for calling.
I appreciate the opportunity to say hi, Joe.
The Winchester Star, the local paper, I just emailed you. They printed an article.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they have a picture of Janis and a little talk with you, me and you. But, man, it was 42 years ago. Can you believe that? Yesterday.
42 or 43 now?
69, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so that would make it 42.
42, yeah. I think The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe.
Oh, yeah?
Had a computer going for 1,000 years and asking it the meaning of life. His answer was
What?
42.
42, huh?
42.
And when was that?
That was the result of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh,
Yeah. So I guess we're on the right track here anyway.
so Sony sent you the Woodstock box, right?
Yes, I did receive that.
And I'm very impressed with it. But, you know, I listened to it with a critic's ear. And the mix they did of it is a lot more toned down for the older set than the bootleg, which is off the soundboard, and which is manic. It's just a manic, outrageous rock concert. And the Sony re-release is more smoothed out.
Well, I guess they'd have all the technology trying to clean it up, I guess. I don't know.
Right, but in Summertime, there was this amazing fight between probably your guitar and the keyboard. It just sounds, it sizzles on the bootleg, and in this, it's a lot more subdued. Even though you guys are still wailing, you know, they space it out, and it's cool. For my older ears, it works.
Well, maybe there were different sources, Joe. Maybe one was a soundboard, maybe a 16-track or something like that, and the other was just a 4-track. Who knows what kind of mix they had for each one.
Right, those boots are usually a 2-track soundboard that someone kind of, you know, rifled and put out on the market. They had the huge Woodstock 16-track, I guess it was.
Oh, yeah, they would have had that. But, well, it doesn't really matter. If you compare past all the noise and the disparities in the mix, and you just listen to the music.
Oh, yeah, and
I do.
I just think it's a tremendous performance from all of you. And I've said it before, your band and the Rock and Roll Animal Band that Lou Reed and Alice Cooper used, two of the premier bands of the well, for your band it was the late 60s, early 70s. And for Rock and Roll Animal Band it was the early 70s. But two just tremendous bands with great musicians.
Yeah, well, I really, that was only my third job with Janis. The third time I had ever performed with her was Woodstock.
What was the first performance?
I do believe it was the Dick Cavett show. And then there was a Forest Hills concert, at the tennis stadium there. And then there was, that was the only one I played with Sam Andrews.
And Sam says hello to you, a big warm hello, he loves you.
I love that picture Sam sent me. Thank him very much for me, will you? Somebody snapped a very grainy photo of him and I on stage together at Forest Hills, and Sam sent it to me. I think that's wonderful.
Did he mail it to you?
Yeah, he emailed it to me. That's
Oh.
what I have of us together on stage. I'm
That-
sure there's thousands of others out there, but where they are, I do not know.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah, Sam's a nice guy.
Yep. So, you know, boy, I hope that is on tape somewhere, Sam Andrew and John Till together.
I don't know. The Forest Hills concert would have been that. And then there was that was the only one, except there is the Dick Cavett show, where we're both on stage together.
Oh, I have that. Okay, that's great. Oh, good. I got to go look at that tonight.
I do believe, but there's about 3 performances on the Dick Cavett show of Janis, so I'm a little fuzzy on whether that would actually be available to Sam and me, but I know I played with Sam and Cosmic Blues Band on the Dick Cavett show, and then twice with Full Tilt on the Dick Cavett show.
They are now putting out in about 2 weeks the entire Jimi Hendrix on Dick Cavett. I guess he played quite a few times. I just think it's so great that this material is made available to us.
After all these years, yeah, it's like the Festival Express, that movie about the train that went across Canada, that Janis and we were all on it, and the band was on it, and Buddy Guy and Ian and Sylvia. You know, it's a fairly famous rockumentary.
And Bob Seamus did it, I think?
Yeah, that's the one.
He did the Beatles documentary too, right?
Yeah. It was wonderful that after 40 years, it all comes out. Like maybe it was only 35, but those films sat around in canisters for decades, and it finally hit the streets, and nobody ever expected it. You just never know, do you?
Was it you who told me that the canisters were used as hockey goals?
Yeah. You told me that as kids they used to stack them up and use them as hockey goals. They fired the puck between these stacks of canisters, big aluminum canisters of film, not knowing what was in them or whether it had any meaning at all. But apparently they dragged it around from one location to another as the household moved from one place to another, and those canisters came with them. And eventually it got turned into a movie. Now apparently there's many more hours of stuff available, but I from that tour. But they chose what they did, I guess because it was probably the best or something. But there is other stuff for the purists out there who might be interested. There might be more coming. You never know.
Well, John, you know, the Grateful Dead have some ridiculously large 72 CD set coming out of the entire 1972 tour.
Right.
So there are people that do want the whole I mean, I want the whole thing. You know, I'm a big fan of yours. I think that goes without saying. I'm a big fan of Full Tilt. It was an amazing group. I have a trivia question for you. On the internet, on YouTube, there's a version of Janis Joplin solo playing Me and Bobby McGee at Threadgill's.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was done before or after the album was tracked.
Well, I don't know. Of course, I watched that. You sent me the link on that, and of course somebody has put that soundtrack over a totally different performance. I think it was a Dick Cavett show performance, or maybe it was. I was in the background, but it was some live performance of. It might have been from the Festival Express.
Oh, so it might not. No, I think it was at Threadgill's because she was friendly with the owner, and he might have run a soundboard. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was Festival Express. That's what the...
Well, no, the sound, I do believe you're correct that it was. But I have no idea who the musicians were on it, and I know that the video is not the same.
Right. That someone just slapped together video images because all they had was audio.
Right, they could have done a slideshow, who knows, I mean, if they wanted to, but that's what they chose to put on it. And there was complaints from a bunch of people saying, how come it doesn't line up? Well, you know, it's totally different, that's all. That's why.
What I'm doing is I'm going to download it onto DVD because, you know, YouTube will eventually yank it, and it really is rare.
Yeah. Get that flash recorder going.
Yeah. John, what are you still playing on the weekends?
I am. I have never stopped playing.
So you play relentlessly.
Well, it's slowed down the last couple of years. We were doing a house job in London, Ontario for 3 or 4 years every Saturday afternoon, and it really kept our hands in shape and kept us on top of our game. But now it's slowed down a little bit. That house gig is over, and And now I think they're coming by about every 3 to 4 weeks, the jobs now.
Oh, so you still play around London?
I haven't since those house gigs went under.
Oh, so there's different venues you play.
Yeah, different venues. There's a couple of spots here in Stratford, Ontario, where I'm from, and we do play there. And then there's the odd out-of-town thing, but we're not really pursuing it all that strongly these days. Everybody has their own lives and their own other things to do. But we do keep our hand in, and if there isn't a job for 3 or 4 weeks, we definitely get together for an evening or two and run through some tunes. It's just fun.
And what's the name of the group?
Plum Loco.
Say that again?
Plum Loco.
P-L-U-M?
Yeah, Plumloco.
Plum Loco.
Yeah, it's what Gabby Hayes called Roy Rogers when he wanted to do something crazy. He says, "You're Plum Loco."
Well, you know what I would love to do? I would love to bring Marty Balin of the Jefferson Airplane up to your area to do some concerts and have your Plum Loco open.
That'd be great.
Because I work with Marty, and we just got him a brand new agency, a big agency, to book him worldwide. And we're doing the entire Surrealistic Pillow album, which is the second Jefferson Airplane album with Somebody to Love, White Rabbit, Today. So did you ever play, oh sure, you played on stage with Marty at Woodstock. Maybe not the same day.
Would that be Woodstock 69 you're talking about?
Right, Jefferson Airplane played one of the days. I'm not sure if it was 15, 16, or 17.
Yeah. Well, I was only there for one day, and there was a lot of bands on, so I was sort of focused on our particular show. I know that before we went on at Woodstock 69, Creedence was playing. I remember watching them from 180 degrees from the front, sort of just watching the back of their amps, and as we were setting up, and of course they rotated the stage, and we started playing, and Creedence tore down.
You know what's really strange is Creedence wasn't on the original LP.
Neither was Janis.
Right, but Janis was so larger than life, you always knew Janis and Woodstock. Creedence never got the cachet Janis got, even though they both weren't on the live album. The 5 live albums, Woodstock 1 or 2.
Well, I think some of it might have been contractual. I don't think they got all their ducks in order before the concert, and I think there was some problems later with rights, hassling over rights and percentage or whatever. I really don't know, but that was my understanding, that some of those performances didn't hit the streets on the original movie, either because the movie was going to last 90 minutes probably, and it was 3 days worth of entertainment. They had to pick and choose what they wanted to put on, but Janis was conspicuously missing from the whole thing. I've heard several different theories as to why that was, but I'm glad that eventually it did come out. You know, somebody sent me some video of Woodstock anonymously. I don't know who sent it to me, but it was a videotape of 3 songs from Woodstock from a camera angle that I've never seen before.
Nice.
It's really close up. I don't know, but it's never appeared in film that I've seen.
Transfer it to DVD and save it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, oh, that's right. It's still on VHS.
Always transfer the stuff. You don't want it to deteriorate.
I know, those tapes do, don't they?
A good friend of mine sent us the German telecast from, I think I sent you a DVD of that. What I think was 4/13/69 performance in Germany. Was that you, or that might have been Sam, April in '69, right?
I didn't play Europe with Janis.
Yeah, okay.
No.
So that was Sam.
Right, I came in about halfway through the Cosmic Blues experience. It lasted approximately 1 year, a little less than a year. But to me, that was a great band. I mean, I really enjoyed the horns and the organ, Richard Kermode on organ, and Snooky on baritone, and Louis Gasca on trumpet, and Terry Clemens on tenor. that to me was a good band. And I tell you, I stepped into a situation that was just a pure joy to play along with, because when you play in a band with horns, you have to play a lot less. You play a different role. It's sort of, somebody coined the term ensemble playing.
Sure.
It was a joy to fit right in with that, because there was a piano you had to leave room for, and you just sort of play amongst everybody else. You don't. It's not like a guitar, bass, and drums trio where the guitar has to do everything. Like Hendrix or the Cream or something like this. This was a real joy, and to hear those horn parts. Like, I have a favorite video that's on YouTube right now, and it was from a performance that we did on NBC. I think it was. I don't remember the name of the show now, Rocket or something like that. It's hosted by David Steinberg.
Oh, I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, and we do Try, and we do Maybe. She does a tremendous job on Maybe, and there you can really hear the horns and what they can do. It was a enjoyable band, and then when she finally did decide to make a change, she turned everybody loose except for me and Brad Campbell, the bass player, who is also another Canadian from down the road here, and who I see fairly often. And she retained the two of us to go back to California and form Full Tilt. So I got two different views on Janis's career in two different bands. Both Brad and I did.
And you and Sam are really the only two people in Brad, because Sam was, of course, in Big Brother and then Cosmic Blues.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he did play in two bands, right? And then with Brad and I, we did the other two bands with Cosmic Blues in common. And so, yeah, I look back on those days very fondly about all the people I worked with, and if they ever invent a time machine, I'd like to go back.
Well, I was 15, 16 at the time, 17. I would love to go back and experience what you people experienced, you know? Right.
When I'm looking, I look back on things, I think, well, you know, it was just so fortunate for me to be in the right place at the right time, to be involved in that, because and another thing is I didn't really realize that Woodstock was going to be the iconic event that it turned out to be. I mean, I had played at least one job with Janis, two jobs with Janis before that, and they were fairly big venues. Like, it was Forest Hills, and I believe there was a place in Maryland. That was the first job in Maryland that Sam wasn't around. And but we were rehearsing up in Woodstock, New York, and the road crew kept coming back from the site, going, "It's getting bigger, John. It's getting bigger. You won't believe it." And I to me, if you can't see past the first 5 rows, it doesn't mean anything whether there's a 500,000 people out there or not. I mean, we played at night, and I couldn't really see beyond the first 5 or 10 rows of people standing there. So I was, as far as I was concerned, it was just as good as playing to a small little intimate audience, you know. But there was just so much going on that I had to be on my toes. I had to keep track of what key we're going to be in. I had to watch Janis for counting the songs in, or whoever was going to be counting, and I just had to more or less stay on track. And you can only look out of the audience for so long, and then you've got to look back and take care of business and do your job. So the most important thing to me was that I didn't play anything drastically wrong. And it really was the third job I had played with Janis, and I really wasn't totally sure of what I was supposed to be doing, but I had practiced a lot on my own and with rehearsals with the band, and I made a lot of notes and tried to keep track of what I had to do, and I reviewed that constantly up until that point. But you know, there's something I learned over the years, is that stage fright doesn't set in unless you don't feel prepared. And I didn't have stage fright at Woodstock because I figured I would go with my experience and what I had managed to assume, and I just hoped everything came off for the best, and then I just had fun. And I just did what I'd always tried to do, which is play well. So, and in retrospect, I guess it was okay, you know.
I'm holding up the poster from the Woodstock experience with people, August 15th to 18th, 1969.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's a nice picture of Janis. Beautiful red picture of Janis on the poster. I hope Sony sent you the Pearl Deluxe with the bonus disc.
I believe they did, yes.
That's got Festival Express music on it, which is tremendous to have a full live album, unlike the Janis Joplin in concert, which had half of Big Brother and half of Full Tilt.
Without the bit.
This is a Full Tilt Boogie live album, which is in the Pearl Deluxe, it's called.
Oh, yeah, they're taken from some live shows, are they?
Yeah, Tell Mama, Half Moon, Move Over, Maybe, Summertime, Little Girl Blue.
Well, just to interrupt you for a second, there was some songs that Janis carried through various bands.
Right.
And then others she dropped. Like one that was retained all the way through was Piece of My Heart. She did that with Big Brother. She did that with the following two bands too. And but then others, like say Maybe Jerry Ragavoy's Maybe, that was done with Cosmic Blues, and she carried through that to Full Tilt. And but then there was others that she didn't do with Full Tilt, like well, there was one. Try was another one that she started doing in Cosmic Blues and then carried through to Full Tilt. But Get It While You Can, that was one that was brand new to Full Tilt. And speaking of Jerry Ragavoy, I was amazed when I took a closer look at his writing credits.
Oh, yeah.
That there was, Janis did no less than 5 of his songs.
She loved Ragavoy.
Mm-hmm.
And Ragavoy just passed away, unfortunately, a month ago.
Yeah.
But
I wish I'd have met him.
Did you meet Chip Taylor, who co-wrote Try?
No, I didn't.
Chip Taylor wrote Wild Thing. So pairing up Chip Taylor and Jerry Ragavoy is really unique.
Oh, yeah. Wild Thing. Yeah.
He also wrote Angel of the Morning from Merrily Rush.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's still so vivid in my mind. Some of the moments of Woodstock. I remember I could be right back there, right now in my mind, in some of these situations that we're in. You know, that seems to be how our memory works. Is that we can't remember every single second of what went by, but there are those moments that are absolutely vivid, and you can be right back there again, without any doubt that that's the way it really was. And I look back very fondly on those Woodstock days. I really like the photographs of the overhead photographs of the site, and I got a chance to go back to Woodstock for the Woodstock '94 concert.
With Aerosmith?
I went to the secondary stage and caught the band and Primus. And but in both situations, I never got to go out into the audience.
Huh.
With the, I got to go in through, be escorted in the backstage area at Woodstock '94, but I was told don't go out into the audience because I didn't actually have a physical pass, so I might not have gotten back to get back on the bus again. So I didn't go out then, and then John Cook gave us strict orders when we were at Woodstock '69 that nobody goes out into the audience because we want to make sure we have a band when it comes time to go on.
Right. Yeah.
That could quite have been very possible that we wouldn't have gotten back in. It's quite quite the organized confusion there.
You know, Genya Raven did Jerry Ragavoy's Stay With Me, and 10 Wheel Drive, not 10 years after, but 10 Wheel Drive was so up and coming and hot that they refused to play Woodstock, which was a big mistake, of course. And Tommy James and the Shondells, same thing. They thought it would have helped both. Tommy's been a guest on this show frequently. He's a great guy. But it would have been great for Tommy James and for Genya Raven, 10 Wheel Drive to be on the bill, too.
Right.
I think the world lost out because Genya is such a great voice, but she's something like Janis. I don't know if you're familiar with her.
Who is it?
Genya Raven.
No.
Genya Raven and 10 Wheel Drive. They were very hot on Polydor, but they turned down Woodstock because they felt they didn't need it, and it would have changed history for them.
Well, yeah. You just never know, do you?
No.
We were supposed to play Altamont, at least offered to us. And there was several reasons why we didn't end up going to California. We were already on the East Coast. It wouldn't have been logistically possible to get our equipment back out there. And plus, there was some concern among the management as to whether it would be really such a good idea for us to go out there. Excuse me. And in retrospect, it turned out to be quite a unorganized bedlam, and people said after the fact that it's good we didn't go. But still, it wouldn't have been good for us to not have gone to Woodstock.
Right.
So you never know. They were both billed big concerts, and there was always the potential for Altamont to be even bigger than Woodstock, but it didn't turn out that way. Just lucky.
Now I'm holding in my hand a 1973 book by Myra Friedman, The Biography of Janis Joplin, Buried Alive.
Myra, yeah.
And
I love Myra. She's no longer with us. She died last October, and but like several people in my life, I've just managed to see them one last time, and I don't know if it's some kind of providence, but that happened with Richard Commode too. We took with Richard Commode to the piano pair with Cosmic Blues.
okay.
We lived together in San Francisco. My wife and I, Dorcas, my wife and I, and Richard, we got an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment, and we split the rent, and we lived there. This was after Cosmic Blues was disbanded. Excuse me, but we remained friends, and we lived together for the longest time. Well, Full Tilt was being formed, and I was still living with Richard on Sutter Street in San Francisco, and we lost track of each other for many decades after that. But in around 92, 93, we took a trip down the Coast Highway in California, and before we left San Francisco, we got to see Richard again one last time, and it was one of those crazy things where how am I ever going to reach this guy? And I went into a bar, and he said, "Well, we don't know. Ask the sax player. Maybe he does." And the sax player, he almost dropped the saxophone on the floor when I asked, "Did anybody know where Richard Commode is?" And so we managed to get together with Richard, and it wasn't but a few months after that Richard left us, and he was gone. So I really feel fortunate that we got to be reunited that one last time with Richard Commode. And then same thing with Myra. We were buddies on the telephone for decades. Sort of lost track of her initially, but then we got to talking maybe once a week on the phone, and we just yak and laugh, and she'd come up with the latest news or latest opinions, and she said, "When are you coming to New York, John?" I said, "Well, I'm going to get there eventually." She said, "Yeah, right." But I did go. 2 years ago. I drove into Manhattan.
I remember. We were in touch back then.
That's right, yes. And she had an apartment on 14th Street, and I paid the $10 an hour to park. It was really worth it to see Myra, and it was Manhattan hadn't changed. It was just as crazy on the streets as it was back in 1969. I don't think it was even any more crazy because the cars were bumper to bumper and 3 lanes wide and trying to fit into 2 lanes back then. But it was the same thing. And anyway, I got to see Myra, and we took a few photos. And she was always she was just so up and happy and grinning and smiling. And so I did finally get to see her. And then a year later, she passed away. So in a way, in some strange way, I feel fortunate that we got to be united at least once before it was too late.
Now, she was Albert Grossman's publicist and worked for Janis?
Yeah, she worked out of Grossman Glotzer Management, and it was on the 3rd or 4th floor up on, I think it was 42nd Street, something. And not sure of the exact address, but yeah, that's where we met. And every time we'd pull in from the West Coast for a tour to play on the East Coast, whether it was with Full Tilt or whether it was with Cosmic Blues, Myra would be there, and she'd meet Janis, and they'd go off and they'd do girl things, and she just sort of just some company, and also they discussed the latest promotions and whatever. They talk shop and do business and just sort of hang around. So she knew a lot about the way Janis's mind worked and what Janis's wants and desires and hopes and dreams were. And Janis, Myra had a lot of history a lot of history that she never actually wrote, and it's really a shame now because a lot of that is gone. Myra's gone.
Yeah, that is sad.
Yeah.
Have you read Laura Joplin's book? Love Janis.
I haven't, no.
There's Love Janis, and then there's a book called Scars of Sweet Paradise. And there's a book by David Dalton that came out originally, Janis, way back when.
Yeah, I remember David. He traveled with us with Full Tilt for a week or so and did an article in Rolling Stone.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he recently did Steven Tyler's biography. He worked with Marianne Faithfull. He's done a lot, Meatloaf. He's done a lot of the bios. Have you thought of writing your history and put it in book form? Your life story.
I'd have to be organized to do that.
Yeah, but you could take the allmusic.com bio that we worked on together, and that could be a good template, right? You just expand it.
Yeah, I could do that. Maybe someday I'll find the time to do it. There never seems to be enough time to do everything you want to do, And but that would be something that would be a lot of fun to do.
Yes, especially if you have the pictures, like you said, those pictures of and the footage from Woodstock from that camera angle. You could take photo slides from that and put them in the book.
Right? Yeah, I never found out where those came from. It's just an anonymous VHS tape with 3 songs on it, sent from England.
Oh, you just say thank you to Mr. Anonymous or Mr. or Ms. Anonymous from England.
I could do that. Somehow they had my address. I don't know, but it was a lot of fun to see that. I said, wow, because every other Woodstock thing, I was sort of trying to keep a low profile during the whole Woodstock thing because I was still trying to fit into that band, and I wasn't leaping to the front of the stage and doing somersaults or anything like that. Not that I ever did do anything like that, but any video you see of Woodstock, I'm always way off in the distance back by the piano.
Oh.
And just sort of keeping an eye on what Richard Commode was doing. And so it was a big surprise that these camera shots, this video came up that like I'm full screen, and so somebody had another camera going that I don't know if it's ever appeared on film or ever appeared on a movie or video at all.
That's fascinating. So in the early days How did the Joplin band find you? How did did Albert Grossman look for you, or John Cook?
Well, I happened to be playing for Ronnie Hawkins, who was the previous frontman for the band. Levon Helm, Robbie Robertson, Rick Danko, Garth
Absolutely.
Hudson, Richard Manuel. They were Ronnie's band, the Hawks, and he needed a new band because they left him. And I found my way to the Hawks Nest in Toronto, and got working with Ronnie. Various incarnations of the Hawks over the years. It was like about 3 or 4 years I worked with Ronnie, and then it was right on Yonge Street. It was a good. So some people said, John, what was it like back in the days of the peace, love, and the summer of love and all that? I said that was really wonderful. I would love to go back, but I said, where I'd actually like to go back is just a little bit before that, to Yonge Street. In 1968, playing for Ronnie on Yonge Street at the Lecoq Door Tavern. Now, that was a good time. That was some learning years where people wore black suits and ties and drank rye and cokes, It wasn't any tie-dyes and starry glasses and strange-smelling smoke. It was rock and roll time back then. Yonge Street was a lot of fun, and I told Ronnie that. I said, if I had my druthers, I'd like to go back there. And Ronnie worked us hard, but in retrospect, we learned. And we got strength from that. And so I was playing for Ronnie at a concert at Varsity Stadium in 1969. And I was, the night before the concert, the band had played at Varsity Stadium, and they came out to the bar out in Streetsville where I was playing with Ronnie, and we had a little bit of a jam session. Levon was on stage, and Rick Danko and John Simon, who produced the Big Pink, and also had something to do with Janis's
Cheap Thrills.
Yeah.
John's a wonderful guy.
Piano player, yeah, great guy. And we had a bit of a jam session, and then next day I was approached by Albert if I would like to come and work with Janis. And I thought about it for about, I really didn't know Janis. I didn't know who she was, but I figured, well, maybe it's time to make a move. I got some advice on it that should I do it? Should I? And several people said, "Oh yeah, John, you should do it." So I decided to take a jump at things, and I gave Ronnie my notice and went to the States, and it was a good move, for sure. And like Ronnie and we've remained friends. We opened for Ronnie a couple of years ago in Stratford here at a concert in the park. Ronnie Hawkins and friends, and we played. We've opened for Ronnie also at the Stratford Shakespearean Festival. There was several concerts there, and so over the years we've gotten together. But I felt at the time that it was something I should do, even though I wasn't really sure what about the situation with Janis. The minute I got down down to the States, the very first day I arrived. Actually, the next day they took me out to New Haven, Connecticut, where she was playing at I think it was Yale, and they sat me down in front of the stage, and I watched a tremendous performance by Janis and Cosmic Blues, and she had changed a lot since the Monterey Pop film. She was dressing differently. She was moving differently. She had a different band. I tell you, I was hypnotized because she was working the stage, and the band sounded so good. The horns. I said I knew that this was going to be a lot of fun. And then that was the only time I actually got to sit out and watch Cosmic Blues. Was that one evening? Even. But then after that, it was constant constant rehearsal and travel.
That's very cool. Now, did you record with Ronnie Hawkins?
Yes, I did. There was an album we recorded at Arc Studios. Some tunes that some people might remember. "Home from the Forest" was one I was on, and he did some tunes. I think some Gordy Lightfoot tunes on that. Another Torontonian.
Sure.
On that album, and there was 3 or 4 other songs. Another person who was on that album was King Biscuit Boy, Richard Newell.
Ah.
Who died a few years back too. But what a tremendous blues harmonica player Richard Newell was. And we worked together for the longest time. And then Richard Newell came south to Woodstock, and we actually did a tour with Richard with Full Tilt Boogie after Janis died. So there's some more stuff to be heard out there that hasn't been released yet.
Oh, that's good to hear. Wow. Did you ever do videotapes back in the day? I know that was more...
No.
Not video, but you know what I mean. If it was ever taped for TV or anything.
Well, the only thing that was going in those days was soundless film. That Cook took a lot of that.
Oh.
That's where a lot of this archival film comes from. Is John always had his 8mm silent film going all the time, and you'd turn around and there wouldn't be John's face; there'd be a camera instead. But it's good that he did that, and he'd have that thing fired up on the way to the airport. He'd have it, and he must have hours and hours and hours of silent film of Janis in both bands, in Cosmic Blues and Till.
Oh, that's good to know. I was actually asking about Ronnie Hawkins, if anyone filmed that, even silent.
There is.
Ah.
CBC did one show, and there's some archival video. Yeah, it's actual videotape. It's not film. And they came in, and it was when I was in the band, and it was really interesting to see. You know, they did a show. It was a half-hour show of which there was a 15-minute segment that featured Ronnie, and it was edited. There was some off-stage stuff as well as some on-stage stuff, but it was really fun to see, and that exists.
Oh, that's great to know. You know, it'd be great to see John Cook's stuff to come out too, or he should do a documentary or some kind of narrate over it, you know?
Well, that's what I'm afraid of. I mean, this stuff, I know that the CBC stuff has been converted to DVD, and you can purchase it, but it's not out there being advertised or for sale. But they've got, the CBC, they do it for money, right? And so unless it's for personal use, if it's going to be involved in any production, then there's going to have to be other considerations for the CBC archives. And
they're like PBS for Canada?
Well, yeah, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. They're actually a government funded and sponsored. Yeah, it's government. But
so the CBC did Ronnie Hawkins, and John Cook taped you and Janis with 8mm or something.
Well, John Cook taped Janis. Right. Yeah, he taped a lot of hers. Now, I don't know about the sound from those days. I mean, there's probably stuff does exist. I'm convinced that whole Varsity Stadium concert did not go unrecorded, but I've never heard anything from it. But maybe it did get unrecorded. I don't know.
Now, a friend of mine's doing a Beatles movie, and he's taken archival footage and fan audio and fan video, and he spent a fortune painstakingly making videos of the Beatles that never existed.
Oh, yeah?
And I sat in his office and I'm watching this. I'm like, my God, this is amazing. So he might have like a fan 8mm of half a song and then a quarter of a song. And there might not be anything in the middle, but he's got the whole audio. So he'll pan a photograph of John Lennon and the camera will go right to left very slowly. Then boom, the footage starts up again. It's fascinating. So he actually has a full video of the Beatles on stage that never existed.
Wow.
And he's been doing this movie for years because my friend Bobby Hebb, you know Bobby wrote Sonny?
Yeah, one of my favorite songs.
And we lost Bobby last August 3rd.
Wow.
I don't know if you know that.
No, I did not.
A year ago this August, we lost Bobby. It was a terrible thing that happened, but he had health issues. But for me personally, it was awful. So Bobby had toured with the Beatles in '66, and this friend of mine, who's a videographer, and he does a lot of media stuff, his parents wouldn't let him go. And so he is making this movie about not being able to go to the Beatles, so he wants to piece together the legacy. And he's got fascinating news footage and things that people thought were gone forever. He has painstakingly searched the world for footage, and it's amazing what he's coming up with.
That's wonderful. I mean, sometimes things happen for a reason. That film wouldn't have existed if you went to the show, probably.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is it's something similar with you and your work must be out there because people always had those cameras rolling or audio rolling.
Right. Well, in those days, if there was any reel-to-reels going, it would have happened off the board. Somebody would have been questioned as to whether they have the authority to record the performances. But and cassettes, they weren't very audio cassettes. They were around. That's when I first got into sound recording. I bought an audio cassette back just before I went to the States in '69. So there really wasn't that much going on. I mean, there might be some stuff out there. It would be so nice if somehow there could be some sort of exchange, where you could report that yes, you have this tape, and some sort of consideration being given to the people who took the chance and actually made the recordings, but to bring that stuff out. But because I know there's probably a lot of stuff in people's basements or maybe just in the landfill now, that could have been, but it could have provided a lot of enjoyment. But whatever is still out there, I wish somehow I could find a way to surface, so that we could hear that stuff.
Well, maybe my friend's film will inspire it. John, we only have a couple of minutes left. Do we have, my director just came in, but we only have a couple of minutes left. I'd love to have you back if you have more to talk about, in a couple of weeks if you'd like.
Well, you can't shut me up once you get me going, you know that.
Yeah, I hope you had fun. This has been fascinating. I've got a lot more questions, but I appreciate that we've been able to discuss Woodstock. It was 42 years ago, and 43 years ago was the final Harvard Square concert, August 12th.
Mm-hmm.
And you ended your tour with Janis up here in Boston in the Cambridge Harvard Stadium.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe we could talk about that next time, if you'd like.
Well, I pretty well all I remember was that little anecdote I emailed to you. We were fairly busy with what we had to do, but like I said before, these little snippets of memory come back, and they're quite vivid to me. I can still hear the crowd hollering as we opened the door and threw the cans of beer up at them. So, we didn't know it would be the last one, Joe, but we didn't know that maybe 3 months later she would be no more. But it was a wonderful time while it lasted, and I'm glad some people still have an interest in it because it really was a great moment in history.
I think you're a fantastic guitar player. I think you're underrated. I think Cosmic Blues Band was underrated. And I have so many more questions. I'd love to chat with you again, John.
Well, I'd love to chat with you too, Joe, and I thank everyone for having an interest in listening in if they're there, and say hi to a few of my friends from Boston. Krista Rose, I don't know if she's listening, but hi, Krista, and Billy from Boston, and we'll maybe get together another time.
Sounds great, man. Thanks so much.
Okay, Joe, you take care.
You too, John.
Bye-bye.
Bye. John Till, on the anniversary of the 42nd anniversary of Woodstock. And you know, it's that time, people.